This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. Welcome back to Research Talks on Stockbox here with Alan Green. Hello, Alan. It's a Friday again, and I've just been looking at a little woodpecker out very close, just on the tree outside the window. It is the greater spotted woodpecker. I did Google him, made sure he was the right one, but he's very pretty with a little red bottom. So how are you? Have you got any nice views from your window today?
I wasn't expecting that, Mark, I must say, but actually no woodpeckers. We get them in our garden too. There's I'm not sure it's the greater spotted one, but it's a green bird with a splash of red, and you can see them hammering away on the trees. It's incredible, and their little brains are insulated from all the hammering through quite a unique cushioning system. But anyway, that's just a bit of
we won't go down the David Attenborough route on
the Attenborough route. It's Friday, and I'm quite excited because I'm going to a gig tonight, and it's the first gig I've been to for many a while, and it's people who know me know I'm into prog rock, and of course bands like Pink Floyd, all the rest of it. But more recently, there's a great prog rock band called Porcupine Tree, who are they're headed by Stephen Wilson, who's a bit of a prog rock icon, but also does a lot of solo stuff too. And people may be more familiar with him for his solo stuff. But yeah, we're going to Wembley Arena tonight. There are four of us. So there's been a tube strike there, so I'm just kind of figuring out the best route to get there is probably to drive and then park on the outskirts and go from there. So yeah.
Okay. Oh well, that's fun. That's a good way to spend a Friday evening, certainly. So enjoy that. Thank you. Of course, we also had the CPI, didn't we? I don't know if you saw that yesterday from the United States, which came in a little bit softer than expected. So in theory, that is a good sign. Of course, the S&P rallied over 100 points during that, and the Nasdaq, I think, had its biggest single day rise for about 2 years. I think I read 7% up. So I'm not sure the Fed will pivot exactly just yet on their interest rate rises, but at least there's some perhaps confidence there that what they are doing is actually working to get that inflation number down. So maybe
it's encouraging. It's really encouraging, and I think also, of course, the Bank of England were equally dovish about forecast, and looking forward. At one stage, interest rate highs of 6% were on the cards. That's now come back to 4.5%. So maybe now we're seeing the crisis peak. We could be seeing inflation topping out, and perhaps the predictions of the longest recession in history may yet be assuaged by a return to normality. Obviously, it's going to be driven by the Russia-Ukraine situation as much as anything else, certainly for Europe and the UK. But let's see how that pans out. But certainly encouraging signs from the US. Of course, a big jump in the index. FTSE started well this Friday morning, and then just dropped back briefly into negative territory, but looks like it's just consolidating now at around 7,360. So good news.
Yeah, you never know, do you? You ask 10 economists their opinion, you get 15 different answers, and it can
exactly.
it can turn. On a what's the word, on a penny? Is that what you say? What's the phrase? It can
turn on a sixpence.
On a sixpence. There we go.
That was the pre-decimal phrase. It's probably turn on a 5p now.
Turn on a 5p. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so anyway, we're going to be talking today about Premier African Minerals and GreenX Metals, aren't we? So is it Prem that you'd like to start with?
Yeah, let's start with Prem, Mark. Of course, we've spoken about Premier African Minerals beforehand. Some hugely exciting developments this year. But of course, with both these companies I'm going to cover today, the share prices are heading in similar directions, which is exciting for all those that got in much earlier. Of course, Premier is currently pushing 50p a share, that's it, half a p a share, and of course gives it a market capitalization of 110 million. That's up from 0.17p early this year. So really good progress from Prem. But with good reason. Of course, Premier, the team running the company are well known, well established. I mean, George Roach, of course, the director, he holds a chunky 7% of the company, 7.1%. So he's got very much got skin in the game. He's a veteran of the industry and knows the Southern African continent like the back of his hand. He's undertaken numerous projects in the past and obtained licenses, mineral exploitation work in the region and under many different companies, but he has a huge amount of experience. Before founding Premier Africa Minerals, he was the managing director for Euromin Incorporated in Africa. So we then have several non-execs. Dr. Luo Wei is also a non-exec, and of course, Dr. Wei comes in on the back of a partnership with Suzhou, the Chinese company, to invest into the opportunity in Africa. Of course, the Zulu lithium project, which I'll come on to shortly. We then have Mr. Godfrey Mahanbra, who's a Zimbabwean national, and very much he's key to ensuring the smooth running and the maintaining of relationships with the Zimbabwean government. And again, there's a huge management team on the ground there. Exploration manager, Mr. Bruce Cumming, a geologist with more than 40 years experience, got his degree at the University of Cape Town. So again, very familiar with the region and the area. So the company owns three primary assets. Of course, the Zulu lithium project, where a DFS, a definitive feasibility study, is currently underway. The company has an interest in the RHA tungsten mine, also in the far northwest of Zimbabwe, and there's the potential there to return to near-term production. I won't go into the history surrounding that mine, because there was a lot of toing and froing. There's been a lot of toing and froing over the past few years in regard to funding and everything else. But nonetheless, the RHA tungsten mine is now close to a return to production. The company also has an interest in Namibia with the manganese, the Odzondu mine and project there, where the company is currently mining manganese. There's also an interest in a company called Circum 2. Premier had previously had a near 5% interest in Circum Minerals, which owned the Danakil potash project in Ethiopia. It basically swapped that interest for just over 5 million shares in the capital of Vortex, which has Vortex has approximately 37% interest in the shares of Circum. So that company is that I wouldn't say it's a dormant interest, but certainly it's a back burner interest for the group. But of course, the focus has been for the company this year the huge turnaround with the Zulu lithium project in Zimbabwe. So the asset there, there are 14 special based mineral claims across the area, totaling 3.5 kilometers. So it's quite a small area. But there's an exclusive prospecting order covering Zulu lithium, granted March last year, March 2021, which covers some 205 kilometers. So there's a substantial area for the group to work across. Now, with mining lithium, the lithium is identified or extracted. The easiest way to extract lithium is from spodumene, and spodumene, there's a market for spodumene, of course, but sometimes there are other minerals with spodumene, which makes it more difficult for extraction. But in this case, the company has gone through the feasibility study, looked at the extraction of the lithium oxide, and concluded that at the current level there is something like 8 to 10 million tons at about 1% lithium oxide from spodumene-bearing pegmatites. And that's a SAMREC compliant resource, not a JORC resource, but SAMREC is almost equivalent. It's the South African code for reporting exploration results. So there's a huge amount there. And the current data that the group has from the PFS and the DFS indicates some 5 million tons per month will be produced from the pilot plant, which as we were saying earlier, Mark, it's estimated that's going to be on stream in February next year. So hugely exciting step forward, and that will of course coincide quite nicely with the Indaba conference down in South Africa. So it'll be a great focus point for the group. Now, Premier have brought in Stark to undertake the DFS study. They've put together a lot of detailed documentation, and it's estimated that the capex required to complete the plant and surface infrastructure for the Zulu mine will cost some $34 million. So that obviously will be secured further down the road once the DFS is completed, and then George and his team will identify partners to come into that. But I suspect, given that Suzo has already subscribed for 12 million shares in Premier African Minerals to fund the DFS, that's given them some 13.3% of the company. I suspect that the additional monies will probably come from them to complete the work. So most recently, there was an update provided by Premier in regard to the Zulu assay results, and also an update on the pilot plant. This was a few weeks ago, and from these results, the company reported multiple thick high-grade zones of pegmatite, lithium-bearing mineral bodies which show high spodumene content, and the thickest, what they refer to as the thickest pegmatite areas, which are both north and south of the Makachi River, in where the Zulu lithium project is based. So the test work that's been undertaken so far indicates an 80% recovery rate for the pilot plant. So when the pilot plant's commissioned next year, there's an estimate of 80% recovery from the spodumene content, and the quality is so high that George and the team have more or less said that there's a direct correlation between spodumene and lithium content. So that gives great visibility to the project, because of course the analysts can look at that and say, well, for every supply of spodumene that gets processed, from that we're going to recover 80% lithium oxide. That's basically then market ready. So pilot plant commissioning, as I said, in February next year. And George Roach said in the October update, the pilot plant will need to demonstrate recoveries. The test work completed by a company called Ansaplan in 2017 indicated that as I said, the potential of 80% plus recovery, and the company currently remains on target and also within budget to complete and get this pilot plant up and running in February next year. And at that point, the DFS will be completed, and of course, then, as I say, it'll be next steps and the pathway to producing lithium and pushing on from there. And I imagine, if we look at the share price movement again of Premier over the past month, it's just top right hand corner stuff all the way. So of course, initially when it was announced earlier this year that the lithium plant was now available to Premier to develop, the share price shot up, and as you expect, since then there's been speculation and further growth and a lot of share price movement that has really ignored the malaise in the mining sector, and has just powered on. And of course, here we are now. It looks like it's going to break through the year high and progress on from this point.
Yes, well, thank you, Alan. Of course, explorer going to producer is rare in this space, but it looks like Premier African Minerals are well on their way to achieving that with their pilot plant production scheduled for around February. So that's great. And I know Prem has got a very active investor base, very loyal investor base. The shares are very liquid. And so it's fantastic to see this company moving to that point. And George always seeming very giddy and excited when we talk to him. So
I'm not surprised.
indeed, yeah, indeed. I mean, it's a long time coming, I think, for him.
It's been a long time coming, but I think I'd urge investors to go and look at the most recent presentation on the website, which looks at the DFS in detail, and of course the timeline for bringing everything into production, and this includes the access roads, the haul roads, the dam wall construction, electrical infrastructure, and of course the pilot plant we discussed, and you know the details like the waste rock dump where it's going to be processed from, and the commencement of the open pit mining operations. And there's a lot of detail there in the equipment too that will be installed on the site. And it just shows each piece of equipment as it will look in situ, and it's a very thorough and complex report. Also with the individual detail for the expected capex going forward. But as I say, I think I would suspect that money will probably in the end come from Suzo or some other investors already engaged with Premier African Minerals.
Yeah, there's a lot of good media at the moment, certainly on their Twitter feed as well. You can see things being constructed, camp accommodation, the dam work being started, work on infrastructure and roads, that kind of thing. So there's lots of stuff going on for sure on the ground. And yeah, like you say, there's very detailed imagery there of the pilot plant. It is a modular design, as I understand, being developed, as you said, by Stark in Germany. And yeah, it's all going to be shipped over in containers and pieced together. So it's exciting times for that company. I'm very pleased to be following that story quite closely.
I think George and the team have done a great job there. And of course, the exciting thing is, of course, they still have the other projects in the background too. Although, as you'd expect for a company of the size of Premier African, their focus is quite rightly so on Zulu at the moment, but it's great that you've got that project driving the value. But of course, in the background, you have the other projects, the tungsten project, RHA tungsten project, and also the manganese project in Namibia that is in production. So yeah.
Okay, so GreenX Metals then, Alan.
So GreenX Metals historically has evolved from a company called Prairie Mining that investors may well remember from a few years back. And there are two key drivers for the share price here. And I mentioned that the GreenX Metals share price was heading in a very similar direction to that of Premier African Minerals. So the shares have been trading traded a yellow of 10p, currently trading at 22p, have been as high as 23p, but we're now trading at year highs, which gives the group the group a valuation of some 50 to 60 million or 95 million Australian dollars in terms of valuation. So the legacy issue from the Prairie Mining days were involvements with two coal mines in Poland, namely the Jan Karski and Debiansko coal mines. There were, in effect, the Polish government took back those coal mines from ownership of Prairie, and there is currently the Polish government are currently being sued by GreenX Metals for lost profits, lost revenues, lost investments, and all the rest of it. And you may think, well, that's a pretty far-fetched case. You know, can it possibly succeed and come to fruition? Well, the answer is probably yes. The company has a $12.5 million litigation funding budget and is using a team of lawyers that have a 98% success rate in cases like this. And there have been notable claims, a number of claims recently, I think recently with rock copper exploration. Of course, the Falklands Oil and Gas Exploration Company, or known for that, successfully sued the Italian government and received compensation from the Italian government. Now, I mentioned the market capitalization, 95 million Australian dollars, so about 50 million sterling. Now, this claim is for 737 million in historical damages from lost profits. And the claim is proceeding well, and recent reports from GreenX, when there have been steps forward with the claim, it looks to be on course, and it looks as though there could very much be a successful outcome in this ruling. Which obviously, if you get a sum of money like that into the company, it's going to change everything. The market capitalization will explode, and the company will be well funded, and I imagine will look to pursue a number of different projects. But what is also driving value, and what is equally exciting, is, of course, we've spoken about Amaroq Minerals being engaged in Greenland. GreenX Metals are engaged with Greenland to develop the Arctic Rift copper project. And the Arctic Rift copper project is, along with Greenfields Exploration Limited, is potentially a world-class copper project. And I say potentially because the early indications from initial results testing, which I'll cover shortly, look too good to be true. The company is partnering with Greenfields Exploration, has an earn-in agreement which was announced in almost exactly a year ago, an earn-in agreement with Greenfields Exploration that will see GreenX Metals acquire an 80% interest in the project through spending $10 million over the next 5 years. Well, obviously the first year is gone, some money has been spent, so that will of course continue. Now, this is a copper project, but there are also other sort of metals being discovered at the same time. In August this year, the company announced that exploration has started, and there's a very good map which illustrates where the project is based. It's right at the north. It's an area called J.C. Christensen Land, and there are two highly prospective prospects known as Neargard Dal and Neargard South. Now, we've been doing some work with GreenX Metals to help them raise awareness of, or to help them raise investor awareness of the asset. But what I think has really engaged investors is that the company are using, and when they landed in Greenland during the summer to undertake the initial exploration work, they landed using, they landed from the freight ship and were using special all-terrain vehicles, which look literally like something out of a futuristic space movie, to conduct exploration. And these things will drive anywhere. They'll drive through ravines. They'll drive across snow, ice, lakes. They have these huge tires, and they look like the sort of vehicles you see if there was a moon landing. In fact, I don't know, but the vehicles could well be on the moon landing. So these vehicles are manufactured by Sherp, SHERP, and Sherp have been actively sharing the content that we've been putting out across social media for GreenX Metals. So it's hugely exciting, and their vehicles are being showcased in this. But what it's meant is that the team have just been able to drive straight across this inhospitable terrain and conduct this work. And in August, they announced that laboratory analysis from 3 native samples collected in an area spanning 30 kilometers showed incredibly high purity, 99% copper and 255 grams per ton from the Neargard Dal and Neargard South prospects. But eagle-eyed investors will notice that early this week the share price leapt again. November the 9th, that's yesterday, of course, the company announced high-grade sulfides had been verified within the Black Earth fault zone, and they were seeing some incredible grades with peak samples of 53.8% copper, and 1,074 grams per ton of silver. And one other sample showed an identical peak sample of copper, 53.8%, and 2,480 grams per ton silver. They're also literally getting out the vehicles and seeing visible native copper. And this visible native copper is what the team have referred to as smelter ready. So you can literally pop it into the smelter as it is, and out will come your pure copper. So they've got this incredible find there. And the term world class, I think, does rightly apply to this prospect. What the team have also announced is that they've confirmed a location for the logistics hub and the operational base there, and they also believe that the Neargard Dal prospect is similar to the Kawinor copper prospect in the USA. So they're seeing some geological similarities, and of course the next steps are to further prove up the size of the zone before the drilling starts. But take a look at the GreenX website. Also take a look at some of the tweets that Brand UK have put out with those vehicles there. There's also some detailed posts on LinkedIn and also on Instagram too. But the GreenX share price has moved forward, but we've got a market capitalization of about 50-60 million sterling at the moment, with the potential for this court case win with the Polish government to bring over 700 million pounds sterling into the company. And of course, the sort of spend that is currently taking place on the Arctic Rift copper project is chicken feed compared to that, but it's looking early stages as though the grades there are just exceptional. And I think this is something that Amaroq Minerals have found with their operations there too. The grades they far exceed the grades that are found in any other projects in any other part of the world. So Greenland is fast becoming an investment destination of focus for investors who've done their research.
Greenland is indeed becoming a very interesting, well, we can say hot place, can't we? I think it could be the Europe's answer to commodities when we do finally move into this commodities boom for what's coming down the track with the green shift. But yeah, it's very underexplored. And as you said, the Amaroq Minerals there, of course, have got their gold projects that are looking very prospective. So I think it's a very underexplored area that really is going to come to the fore in years to come.
It is, right? Yeah, very much so. And I think certainly the Arctic Rift Copper project, I think is going to be a key producer too. I mean, when you can, we talked about other mineral projects where you can just walk across and literally pull the stuff out of the ground, or just break off a bit of rock, and there it is. There's your copper right there. But when the geologists on location there are referring to it as smelter ready, you get some sense of just how much quality is there, and of course the very near term potential. If you can identify this area, then you can commercialize the drilling process. You can bring those assets in. You can see the value of investing to bring those assets in, get the drilling started, and of course progress it through now to, of course, where Premier African Minerals are in terms of their DFS.
Indeed. What's some of the recent news from GreenX, Alan? They
Well, the most recent one I said yesterday, of course, it's Friday now. That was Wednesday this week. The company announced that high grade sulfides have been verified within this black earth fault zone, and those peak samples I mentioned, 53.8% copper, and in one case 2,480 grams per ton of silver, and seeing visible native copper. And this was all reported on Wednesday. Logistics base was confirmed, and the similarities with the Neargard Dal to the Kawinor copper prospect in the USA. So worth looking at that announcement, but that's driven the share price this week. As I say, we're up now from 16.5p on the 3rd of November to 22p today. So it gives you some idea. I think there's a gradual, the market's suddenly realizing that there's an asset here that is hugely undervalued, because if they win the court case, if the court case comes through, 737 million pounds sterling into the company, and then the Arctic Rift Copper project on top of it, what value then?
Yeah, indeed. Okay, well, thank you for articulating that investment case to us there, bringing it to our attention. GreenX Metals and, of course, Premier African Minerals earlier on. Thank you very much, Alan. And enjoy your concert tonight. And we'll catch up again in a week's time.
Thanks very much, Mark. Yeah, speak next week.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stopboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.